Hello and welcome to episode 12 of the Survival Handbook. Today we're talking about what kind of resources you'll need in mid-game, how to find or craft them, and how to use them. This video is geared towards intermediate players that are looking for guidance on what they might need in order to advance themselves further into the game. If you're new here, I'm Terrifier and I make videos about Ark. If you like videos about Ark, consider subscribing to get more videos about Ark. When it comes to mid-game, you have lots of options on what to do next. You could stockpile resources, tools, and weapons, you could tame an army of powerful dinos, or you could build the fanciest base anyone's ever seen. Mid-game is home to loads and loads of options, but in order to have these options available to you, you'll need a hefty supply of resources. After all, it'll be pretty difficult to build a nursery or turret tower if you don't have loads of metal and cementing paste. The first thing I want to talk about is basically just a general overview of the resources you'll encounter in mid-game. In mid-game, there are two resources that you'll find yourself collecting over and over and over again: cementing paste and metal. These are two of the most important resources in the mid-game, and without an abundance of them, you'll be stopping projects halfway through completion over and over. It's in your best interest to figure out a way to get as much of these resources as possible. For example, there are typically 3 ways to collect cementing paste, and depending on the map you're playing, you might find one method better than another. There are the beaver dams, which are a really great option if you're playing on Ragnarok. There's also the make your own method that a lot of people find really useful on Aberration. And lastly, you have Achatina paste, which is produced naturally by Achatina and is arguably the method that works the best on the majority of the maps. Of course, taming an Achatina and keeping them fed can be difficult, considering you need sweet veggie cakes to do anything at all with them. These 3 methods for collecting cementing paste have worked extremely well for me personally, and I often find myself using a combination of the methods. Sometimes beaver dams don't respawn when you need more cementing paste, so you'll have to resort to making some with chitin and stone. And of course, both these methods are completely obsolete when you have several Achatina, making your life about as easy as possible. I did make mention of how important metal is, and in order to get as much of it as possible, you're going to need a few things. Firstly, you need an Ankylosaurus. These guys make metal weigh 75% less when it's in their inventory, and if you combine that amazing mechanic with the use of a flyer like an RG, you can make the Anky extremely mobile and collect metal nodes throughout the entirety of the map. If you're playing on Ragnarok, you might find that you don't really need to use a flyer, particularly if you're in the southwestern desert portion of the map, since metal nodes are pretty much everywhere there. And of course, what would metal be without a way to turn it into ingot as quickly as possible? You could always just line up 15 stone forges and divide your metal between them like a caveman, or you could be one of those hipster guys that's always trying out the latest trend and get yourself an industrial forge. A lot of new players look at the resource requirements for industrial forges and think, damn, there's no way I'm shelling out those kind of resources for that. There is no way it's that good. Well, gamer, it's better than you think, I promise. Industrial forges and pretty much any crafting station with the name industrial in front of it is going to be so much better than anything else you can get your hands on. Industrializing your base is going to save you loads of time and energy if you can have the patience and persistence to actually harvest the resources for them. So you might be thinking, okay, Terrifier, I have all this cementing paste and all this metal, but I can't figure out what to use it on. Well, I got you covered. There will come a time when you're looking into explosives or mid-game weapons like shotguns and find that they require loads of this stuff. Not to mention that most of it requires polymer, which funnily enough is made with obsidian and, you guessed it, cementing paste. Of course, you can use organic polymer in place of crafted polymer, but sometimes organic polymer is too dangerous to gather at the early stages of the mid-game, so you may have to craft it for a while. You might also be thinking about that giant stack of electronics and silica pearls you have just lying around. What do you do with that? Well, a lot actually. Electronics are used to make things like elevators, refrigerators, lights, generators, air conditioners, flashlight attachments for weapons, C4, night vision goggles, and much, much more. Electronics are key to the mid-game and will really help bring some light into the dark world of the Ark. You can finally explore that ridiculously dark cave you found without having to worry too much about something sneaking up on you. Maps like Extinction make electronics extremely easy though. I mean, I have so many electronics in Extinction that I don't think I'll ever be able to use all of them. It's so easy in Extinction because all you have to do is whack some lampposts, benches, or tables with Doedicurus and you'll be overloaded with stacks of electronics. And not to mention element dust. What's that? You don't know about element dust? Well, okay. Element dust isn't necessarily the most important mid-game item. However, depending on the map you're playing on, you might need it in abundance. Plus, 1,000 element dust can get you 1 piece of element, so the more you get, the more you can use later in mid-game or late game. The reason I'm bringing this up is because enforcers, mechs, and Ferox will use element for energy, and if you don't have enough, you'll be very disappointed at the end of the day. I recommend finding lots of this as you work your way into late games, so that when you do finally beat some bosses and unlock some tech gear, you'll be able to power all the new stuff you have. We'll talk more about how to get element in the late game section of this series, so sit tight if that's what you're looking for. Another mid-game resource you're definitely going to need is gas. Gas can be pretty frustrating at first, especially since you might not have had a need to gather oil in abundance yet. Gas is a key resource when it comes to progression, since all of your industrial equipment will require it to function. Gas is made by combining hide and oil in a forge, and will be one of those resources you'll probably want to stockpile, especially if you have a lot of generators. You can get oil in a bunch of different places. Tech dinos drop some oil. You can get an oil pump to put on top of oil veins that will autonomously collect oil over time. If you're not playing on a map that has oil veins, you can go to snow biomes and ocean biomes to collect a hefty amount of oil. It's extremely effective to use an Anki or a Doedicurus when procuring oil from oil nodes, so it's doubly important that you have these dinos on hand. The last thing I want to talk about today is ammo, particularly shotgun ammo. Shotguns, in my opinion, are one of the best ways to defend yourself on the Ark. They're good for lots of situations that you simply don't want to be a part of, and well, that's going to require you to make some ammo for it. You'll find that gunpowder can often be a bottleneck, especially if you have other tribe-mates that need some too. It's a good idea to be constantly burning wood so that you always have the charcoal you need in order to make gunpowder. You're definitely going to need a lot of it too, because in order to make 50 shotgun shells, you'll need 600 gunpowder. And that's just for 50 shells. You'll need more than that if you want to run a cave on foot, or if you need to take out a group of dinos coming at you. Of course, what would turrets be without bullets? You're going to need more advanced assault bullets than you've probably ever thought about, so make sure you're collecting the components for gunpowder as early as possible, particularly if you're playing on PvP servers. You'll be surprised at how quickly you go through gunpowder. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to SimplyLindsey over on Twitch for the dope base build you saw at the beginning of the video. Links to her Twitch will be down in the description. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, thank you so much for your time today. We'll see you in the next video.